Hey, welcome. My name is David Gortz, and today we're going to look at My Private Site's Visitor Intelligence add-on. So, can you answer these questions about your site? Can you answer who is trying to access my site and when? Are there signs of brute force or password guessing attacks? What bots are hitting my site and how often? Are there any unusual spikes or patterns in site activity? Which user account shows suspicious or abnormal behavior? These are all questions that are really important for site operators, but you may not have that information for your WordPress site. But Visitor Intelligence can. In fact, Visitor Intelligence can track each access. It can track search bot accesses, AI bot accesses, login successes, login failures, and logouts. It doesn't track every other activity. This is not a Google Analytics. This is specifically for you to understand the pattern of behavior of visitors and to understand the good and bad of it. And then it can also identify trouble spots with the unusual activity guardian. So why don't we take a moment and do a demo? Okay, so let's hope the demo gods smile at me because I am doing this on a live site. I'm not doing this with a demo site. This is the Zats Lab site, and this is installed on the Zats Lab site because I wanted to show you actual visitor activity. I didn't want to just, spoof it. So I've had visitor intelligence running on the Zats Lab site for the last week or so and gathering information. Now, this is the starting page for My Private Site. And I wanted to show you that while My Private Site does provide all sorts of privacy features and access limiting features, you can run visitor intelligence with all of those turned off just to find out what your site is doing. And in fact, on the Zats Lab site, I don't want to limit people accessing the site because it's the site for all of the My Private Site stuff. So I have the site privacy things are all turned off. And what we're going to do is just go into visitor intelligence. So this is visitor intelligence, and it really comes in two parts. It's got the unusual activity guardian, which I'll come to in a minute, and then this site activity monitor. And what the site activity monitor does is it tracks site activity. It lets you identify a variety of different kinds of events, whether they're login successes, login failures, logouts, all bots, search bots, or all bot access. Now, I'm going to scroll down in a second, but because this is a live site, I don't want you to see all of the emails of our users. So I'm going to start with just all bot access and filter that. And that way you can come down here, and as you can see, all of the various bots that are hitting the site are being tracked. And in this case, we're getting a lot of search bots and a few AI bots. So let's take a look at what these categories are. There's the date and time, the event, what it is, if there's a user or user ID for logins and logs outs, what the role of that user is, their originating IP address. The link is the link on our site or your site that they're attempting to gain access to, and then the user agent is the detail about what kind of tool is being used to access the site. In this case, the robots or the bots that are coming in to try to access the site. And one of the things that you can do is you can slice and dice this data very considerably. For example, you can do all bot accesses. We can go back and look at just the AI bots, which are considerably less than the all bot accesses. We can also filter by date, whether it's the last 24 hours or 7 days or 30 days or whatever. So let's filter by the last 24 hours. And then let's come back up here and instead of looking at login successes, let's look at login failures. So let's take a look at login failures. And as you can see, there are a lot of login failures here. And some of them are my name, and these are available, but there's also, people are trying to come in from www.user, wuser, WP code, WP admins, REST API. They're trying to get into the site, and I'll show you some interesting stats in a second, because one of the things that we can do is we can see that there were 1,600 login attempts in the last 24 hours, and if we go back let's just go back the last 7 days and filter. And you can see that there's been 24,000 login attempts that have failed on the site in the last 7 days. Now, if we look at the difference between that and say bot accesses, there's way more attempts to log into the site than there were bot accesses. So this site's being pounded on fairly heavily. In terms of user logins, there's not a lot because this is the users come in, download their stuff, read a little bit and go. And so we've only had a few user logins in the last few days. But by comparison, login failures have been extreme. So that gives you the idea of roughly what's going on. But what if you wanted to get a really good overview of that information? Well, that's what the unusual activity guardian is for. Now, as you can see, there's 61,000 records right now that are being tracked. Those are every one of those particular attempts that have been recorded into the database. And you notice how quick these things are to filter. This stuff is going into its own database table and is very, very carefully indexed so it doesn't negatively impact your site. And likewise, we're not running the user activity monitor all the time. It only runs when you want to see what's going on your site. And I'm going to do that now and take a look at just fairly how quickly this thing pops up. It's doing a full analysis of your site. I just hit click and boom, there we are. So what we're finding then, and there are 5 checks that are put in here. What we're finding is that there are issues with 2 of the 5 checks and 3 of them are okay. And what the checks are multiple failed logins by IP. And what this means is a given IP address that attempts to log in more than 5 times, and it'll flag them. And there are, hundreds of attempts by IP to do this. So this is the biggest issue, is that people are attempting to, or bots are attempting to gain access to the site. Now, this is a good sign. This possible password guess successes. What this does is it finds out whether or not somebody had multiple attempts to get into the site before they successfully got into the site. And what that's a case of is it means that you're not having a whole bunch of people who are trying to get in and then eventually get in. They're all trying to get in and not getting in. If this was red, or if you had a bunch of those, it would mean that your password protection system, in my case, I have a 2-factor auth system on here, your password protection wasn't secure. And so people were trying to get in and then succeeding to get in. And you'd have to look at what the challenges were and look at those user IDs. Traffic spikes are just what it says. It's taking a look to see if there's any big unusual traffic spikes at a given time. Another interesting one is users with many addresses. So if you have one user ID that logs in, but that user logs in from like 10 or 12 different IP addresses, there's a bunch of possibilities. One is, if you're on a content site, it means that that user might be sharing that login with a bunch of people. And if you're not on a content site, it's possible that a user ID has successfully gotten into your system and then is being shared with, pirates or download things or whatever. And then down here is what bots or crawlers are the most common. And in this case, it looks like the most common is actually Apple's WebKit. And as you can see, it's scanning for Claude. So it's really looking like it's Claude, the AI, that is scanning the site. So that gives you a fairly good idea of what you can do with this. But there's one more key feature, which is the export activity data button. Now, I've already done an export because it takes a few minutes to do. But if you click this, you can export your data to an external file. And then you can do some interesting stuff with it. You can work on it in Excel, for example, or what I'm going to show you now is you can also take it into your favorite AI and have your AI tinker with it, which is intriguing. All right, so here we are in ChatGPT, and I've asked the AI to import the spreadsheet, which is the export of the activity data. And first thing I'll do is just say, how many records are there? And it's taking a moment to think about it. And it's the same 61,000 records we saw before. So, okay, let's have it identify the biggest problem area. It's a pretty broad statement. Yes, go ahead. I did ask you that. That's why I asked you that. So it sees that login failures, we thought there was an issue with login failures, but it's really pointing out that there are a whole bunch of login failures, then search bots, then AI bots, and then a small number of login successes. So let's see what we can find out. What can you tell me about the login failures? So what we're seeing first off is that there are a series of top IPs. We saw that in the tool as well, that are really the targeting the problem. And there's another tool which I can show you, or you can just go onto the Zats Lab site and take a look at, which is called block IPs, and you can feed these IPs into block IP, and these attempts will not be possible. So as you can see, there's targeted users. There's really trying to get in as me. So that means to me that they actually know who's running the site and what they're trying to get in for. So that means they're actually targeting me and me on the site. And then you can see the peak of failures, but let's see what tool is being used to attempt these logins. Okay, so that's interesting. What we can see here is that curl, which is a command line tool for pulling data, is attempted 45,000 of those attempts. And that tells me that this is an automated script that's attempting to get in. They're also attempting to come in through the endpoints, the XML endpoints and the login endpoints as well. So they're overwhelmingly attempting to get through that way. So from that information, we know what's attacking, kind of where they're attacking, that they're coming from just a few IP addresses. Let's see if we can try one more thing here. Can you correlate the curl attacks to IP addresses? Are there any big scripted attacks from just a few IPs? Okay, so this is interesting. The scripts themselves are coming from 18 unique IP addresses in the data set. That and the top 5 IPs account for half of the curl attempts. So what we're able to really look at, I mean, we can use block IP and we can block that, and we can actually block the 18 IP addresses. We can just grab these IP addresses, paste them into block IP, and make this problem essentially go away. So what you've seen is we can look at our activity individually. We can get an overall view of the activity. Then we can export the data if we want into a spreadsheet or any other tool you want. Or you can take this and put it into an AI and have it give you some conclusions. All of these are available. And as you can see, all you do is you turn it on and just visit the page to make it happen. Just come into my private site, hit visitor intelligence, and you're good. You can also clear this activity report and rerun it. It doesn't automatically rerun, so you just clear the activity report and then fire it off again to get an update. So there you go. That's visitor intelligence in my private site. So how cool was that? Visitor intelligence can track each access, can identify trouble spots, and you can take that data and you can analyze it both inside the tool and outside using external tools, whether that's Excel or your favorite AI. So you can get more about visitor intelligence at the Zats Lab site. The product page is there. You can get the product there. There's also a white paper if you'd like to have more in-depth technical information. And for my private site and Zats Labs, my name is David Goertz. Have a great day.